name is Rebecca Martin, and I'm the organizer of the Chicago Film Lover Exchange. Today we're talking about Carol Reed's The Third Man, which came out in 1949, starring Orson Welles, Joseph Cotten, and Alida Valli. So we are discussing this film in 3 parts, and we are on part 2, and we are going to be talking about the Ferris wheel scene. And we're going to dissect it by the dialogue, the cinematography, and the editing. And since we just watched that clip about the cuckoo clock part, where Switzerland and all that, I think we should start with the dialogue. So does somebody want to comment on the conversation they were having in the...
Sure.
Ferris?
Yeah.
For the Ferris wheel scene is very revealing. First of all, Lime has been built up, like, to a huge extent up to this point. And this scene is one where it's all laid out, and you realize your expectations are exceeded because he's an amazing guy. He's immoral, but he's still quite a personality.
Right.
And the first thing he says before they get on the Ferris wheel, he says a line about the kids used to ride it all the time, but now they can't afford it. So right off the bat, you can tell money is on his mind. And that's something that's really revealed in this scene is the fact that how much he's motivated by money. He's really a greedy person.
Yeah.
You know, when you come down to it. And right off the bat, you recognize that with that line.
Yeah, that's a great first. That's a great first line. Like somewhere earlier in the film, they'd mentioned Anna had said like Harry never grew up. The world grew up around him.
Right.
In that very statement, Lime is making a whole commentary that, and maybe even in a social sense, that Americans can afford to have these childlike views of the world that even the kids just don't get the chance to.
Yeah. It's so fitting that they're on a Ferris wheel for this scene, actually.
Exactly.
I thought about
Absolutely.
that, you know?
Right. Mary, did you have something to say?
Well, also, in the dialogue, he infamously refers to the people below as dots, and he's referring to the money part.
It's horrible.
He says he can get 20,000 pounds for one person,
Ugh.
and he chillingly says that is free of income tax.
He says, if you could, Dolly,
Yes.
Right.
would you not?
Yes, and,
No.
and so these
It's horrible.
And so these people are tradable commodities for in attaining his wealth, his quick scheme wealth.
Yeah.
But he sort of, building on what Chris said, he's very evil, but he's that charismatic kind of evil character that we've experienced just recently in television programs like Tony Soprano. He's that same kind of character. You know you should hate him, but you really, really like him.
Yeah, he's a likable
And
guy.
Don Draper in Mad Men and Walter White even in Breaking Bad. You can't help cheering for them even though you know you shouldn't. So he's that kind of character, I think. Oh, I
Right.
wanted to mention also, though, what's with the tablets for his digestion? He mentioned that came up a couple
think
times
it's
during
I
kind
think
of
that was
like- go
improvised.
ahead.
I'm sorry, I heard that was actually one of those things that Orson Welles improvised.
Really?
I read that somewhere, but then I looked at the script, and that's actually in
You
the
know
script.
what? I
so-
think it was like purposely put in because if you notice that friend of his, one of the bad guys, the one that was in the is it what's the
Popescu?
club? What's the club called?
The Casanova.
The Casanova Club. And
Acid.
he's like talking about acid, like right
That's
when he
true.
gets to
Yeah.
a part that's uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so that's kind of what,
Ah.
Yes.
like as soon as he's like, I don't want to talk about this, and let's talk about something
Yes.
simple like indigestion or something like
That's-
that.
It only
what-
happens when he's asked a question
That's
that he's
right.
uncomfortable with.
Yeah, he's right. It's such a great little detail on it. It not only goes and shows like there is literal with acid. There's literally a rot inside the characters, but it also gives you the indication that Harry has his medicine. He is going to be able to have the pills that he is denying to so many. That he's going to have the medication and the help and the aid that he's denying to so many people through his money making scheme.
Yeah.
And he reveals a complete lack of compassion, a total lack of compassion and sympathy for his customers, as it were. And that to me is the definition of psychopathy. And he's in my top 3 of movie villains. He and Norman Bates and Hannibal Lecter.
Wow. That's
But you
I
agree
guess
he's
so.
charismatic, though?
Yes,
Yeah.
like Hannibal Lecter, he is.
Yeah.
Well,
He's
like
charismatic.
in this
yeah.
scene, 2 things happen. You simultaneously realize how evil or immoral he really is, but you also can tell how somebody like Anna could fall in love with him.
Yes,
he's still likable. Like
Yes.
you like to hate him.
Right.
And it's like as much as he reveals in the scene, he's revealed in the scene to be this really bad guy. It's still every time he's on screen, you get really excited.
Right.
He's an interesting character.
and as he describes the dots below with such unnerving insouciance, that reveals another layer of that, told me he had no compassion whatsoever. The casualness in which he says his lines, the way
Right.
he describes dots, really gave me the chills.
Right, and can I say, like, when they were on the Ferris wheel thing, do you notice when he opened the car? Like, I think there was a part where he talked about, he told the police, right? Was that
Yes.
the part
Yes.
where he,
He
like,
says you
Yes.
shouldn't have told the
Yes,
police.
he said
right, so he's
unwise-
like, oh,
unwise
and then he was just, like, messing with him, like,
Yeah.
he
No, I
just
think
fell
it
down
was
there.
a bit threatening
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
to Holly during this.
Steven Soderbergh actually said that this scene is a masterpiece in subtext, which I agree with. There's a
Right.
lot of things going on underneath
Yes.
here in the scene, and one of them is so many of Harry Lime's problems could be solved if he were to murder Holly.
Mm-hmm.
He even like threatens him like in a way. He opens the
Yeah.
door.
Yes.
And
He
he's
does
like,
threaten
he's like,
him,
I could
yeah.
put a bullet in you, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't even tell because of how far up.
Yes.
But he doesn't do it. But in the whole scene, there's so much going on between them
Yes.
that isn't explicitly stated.
Right.
And one of them is, is the fact that
Well, Holly even admits, he says, I could be easy to get rid of.
Right.
Holly, and then he coils his arm around
Yes.
the window frame to protect
Right.
himself.
Right. And
Right,
it's
right,
no-
that's a very good little
Yes,
movement.
and it's also notable that when Holly says, I already said that the police had discovered that your body's not in the grave. That's when the Ferris wheel starts to descend as a look of confusion and consternation shows up on his
He shuts
face.
it then at that
Yes,
point, right?
that's
Yeah.
right. So literally at the top of the Ferris wheel is like the apex of like where Orson Welles has the most, or Harry Lime has the most control in that particular situation, and he feels he has the upper hand.
And
or as
then he
much as-
doesn't.
Exactly.
And I think his speech at the apex of the Ferris wheel also indicates his feeling of superiority over the dots below.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
there's
can we-
no accident.
Can we comment on the whole, like, Holly kept saying, like, you should treat Anna better. Why aren't you thinking about her with the whole Russia thing? And meanwhile, you're right with the whole subtext thing, because he's like saying things like, oh, what can I do? I'm dead. But then he's doing like Anna in a heart.
Yes.
Right, that was a
So
really
that was-
interesting little irony.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Boy,
when he does that, he's talking about how people are better off dead anyway, and you realize that the reason Anna was picked up is because he turned her in,
Right.
so he could get asylum in the Russia
Right,
sector.
that's right. He talks about being in the Russian sector. Right.
She is surely going to be probably executed, and so he knew that
Yeah.
what he did is going to be cause for
Yeah.
him to die.
And I mean, the subtext is so great to like even almost a microscopic level of detail, because it's not drawing a heart which says HL plus AS.
Anna.
There's a arrow,
There's an arrow
through
through
it,
it, yeah.
exactly showing
Interesting.
he really knows that he did her wrong, and
Okay.
in fact I think he even says a line saying, "She's a great girl. You should treat her right," or something.
You'll find she's
Yeah.
worth it.
You'll find she's worth it.
Yes, yes. But I think that as he writes his name and the arrow with the Cupid heart, for me that meant that Anna Schmidt was not another dot to him, that he actually did have some measure of genuine affection for her, and that humanized his character a little bit. Although the one good thing that Anna says Harry did for her was get her a really good fake passport.
Yes, which she doesn't have now at the end of the story.
Yeah.
No.
She's
Right.
without a
No.
passport.
It's something that Holly does not have a full picture of Harry Lime until they get to that compartment,
Right.
which is great because they can't leave, and but also there's a point to showing Harry approaching, and it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit of a foreshadowing about what Mary was talking about. You're not meant to recognize him immediately, so it's not quite a level of a dot, but it's a level of a figure that's hidden. Even though you see him right in the middle of the frame, he's hidden from view, and you can't quite get the full picture. And it's also a good contrast that he turns on the friendly attitude
Of
right
course.
away. It's like like politicians could not get, oh, how are you doing? How as fast as he could.
Right.
Showing how his emotions can be like just how manipulative his nature could
Right.
be.
Nancy, did you have something to say?
Well, I wanted to mention one interesting little point about that scene is that when Holly arrives to where Baron Kurtz and Dr. Winkel live, you see that scene behind him. There's this big pile of rubble. That apparently was the Gestapo headquarters, and it's in the Russian zone now. So, and the guys are just working on that hill, clearing the rubble behind him while this happens. But there's one other thing I wanted to mention about that, really about the Ferris wheel. That scene allows us to see these wonderful geometric shots, looking
Yes.
up at the Ferris wheel structure and so forth. Really, really beautiful examples
Right.
of noir filming.
Absolutely. I mean, what better metaphor you can have for Vienna presented in the movie as a slowly turning but always entwining web of lines and connections.
Right.
At that
That-
time in history.
Yeah, and it's,
Right.
Yes, because
Chris, did you have something to say? Or no?
No.
Okay. I was just like trying to make equal distribution here. But anyways, sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
may I comment on the cinematography
Yeah.
of the scene? While that scene is being shot, one of the first things I noticed was that the camera slowly tilted from a left angle to straight to a right angle, and it went back and forth continuously. And for me, it added a very vertiginous quality to the suspense. And then when Harry Lime opens the cabin door and we look down at the people below, and he describes them as dots, the cinematography has the people below casting very long, lean, tall shadows, and I interpreted that as the cinematographer giving these dots a physical significance that could not be overlooked.
They're more than just dots. They're actually
absolutely.
more shadows.
That's such a great point, Mary. It shows how like the films the film's film noir elements are this like raw material that can just inform like the social points the story are trying to make. Like when you're mentioning like how these little dots have a long shadow. That's kind of like almost all the characters in the movie. There, you almost see their shadow before they arrive.
Right,
and
when you see the shadows on the wall. It's
yes,
very long.
and how Harry Lime doesn't even make a physical appearance until so late in the movie. The shadows kind of, to me, seem that the characters, the people in the movie have an effect that long outlasts their actual physical presence. And one of the notable things on how the movie cinematography is the tilted angles, showing how crooked the world is. And in that Ferris wheel scene, the fact that that's the only time I think that the angles are changing for you, which I think is super cool in two
Yeah.
ways. Because for one thing, it shows how things are straight and crooked, and they're becoming straight and crooked as they go
Interesting.
and have their discussion. And it also plays on the fact that at some point in the compartment, Harry has the upper hand, and at another point, Holly has the upper hand. So it's like a seesaw
Wow.
depicted visually.
Yeah, that's
You know,
great.
so
Okay.
just all these mechanisms that are used in a film to go and help inform what's really going on
and
between
it's
two
like
people.
a playground around
Yes.
it, right? So they knew each other growing up as
Yes.
boys. So they're coming back to the place where it all began. You know?
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
That park
It's
is
a
still
return,
there,
yeah.
by the way.
Oh, really?
The Prater, it's not called a playground, but anyway, it's a park with the Ferris wheel is still there and other things like the carousel and so forth.
Considering
It's amazing it survived the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of the documentaries about the film shows the then and now, shows the scenes that are important in The Third Man then and the way those scenes are now. Like the building, remember the building where is it where Baron Kurtz was, or where Harry lives, that has the figures holding up the doorway, you know, the
Yeah.
caryatids? Those are very dark in the Third Man, and when you see them today, they've been cleaned up. They're white.
That's
the
super,
stone is white.
It's super interesting how so many times in the movie the statues are fully lit. You can fully see them, whereas the human beings are like presented in dots or blotches or shadowy figures. And if something just really hit me with regards to what Mary had said about the dots is that that astounding last scene of Third Man takes that to a literal form as well, because Anna is shown
Oh,
walking
yeah,
from
yeah.
a distance.
Right.
And
That's
so
right.
she
That's
shows
funny.
up. So literally, the movie is revealing what maybe other people, Harry Lime at some point included, thought of her as just merely a dot.
Right, she started as a dot in that scene and then became a person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Definitely.
You mentioned in the Ferris wheel the switch between straight angles, tilted angles. So I think there's a lot of interpretations from that. One that I think of is the fact that I think at one point Harry Lime actually did, I think he was a more compassionate person, and I think he became corrupted by the rackets that he got
Yeah.
involved in. Because you can tell by the way he refers to people as dots now that it works for him as long as he perceives things at a distance. And he compares what he's doing to what the government is doing. He likens people in the proletariat to suckers and mugs.
Oh yeah. That's
You know,
right, yeah.
he justifies what he's doing because it's happening anyway, and he's just doing his own version of it.
Yes, he says governments don't think in terms of people anymore.
Right.
Right.
Neither is he.
And I think also in a dialogue he mentions something about how the Russian government is using him, how he's being.
It seems
Right.
like that's his sort of escape route, his new.
That's how he was able to get out.
And he's providing some sort of usefulness or
Yes.
service
That's
for him.
yeah.
Well, he
there-
turned in Anna. That's how he was
Yeah.
able to get into the Russian zone and
Yeah.
flee from.
Yeah, Harry's depiction has this really weird echo with Holly in the sense that Holly comes in and he doesn't know how things really operate, so he's kind of very much a loose cannon, doing things on his own. But Harry Lime, as you see in the movie, he never does, with one notable exception, he never collaborates with people. He's not going. He's always shown appearing alone, or he's just trying to escape alone. He's like, I think to point to your point about like he keeps people at a distance. He's not. There's no moment where you see him exchange with people face to face, except with Holly in the famous Ferris wheel
Yeah,
sequence.
and
There's one exception that I just want to add. The one time where he collaborates is where you don't know it's him. But you see his three compatriots show
On the
up.
bridge.
And how is
On
it
the
shown
bridge
up?
scene, yes.
It's on a bridge with a lot of straight wires like the
Right.
Ferris
And
wheel,
they're dots in the
and they're
distance.
dots.
Right.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, I did want to discuss this because I really feel that Harry, deep down, wanted to be turned in. I felt this because I could feel the anxiety
Really?
when he met with Holly, and how I see it is he's caught up in a racket, right? He's made himself as this important person, but deep down, he's just he's struggling. And I saw that from the Ferris wheel scene on, especially at the end when he's just like, I'm done, type of deal. And I think what it is he's running from everything. Like, you know how you said he doesn't collaborate with anyone, he doesn't do a face-to-face? Because I think when he starts to get close to people, he starts to be kind of melt a bit in the sense of like his hardness. Like soon as he meets up with Holly, it's just kind of like, I remember I used to be a nice dude. I believed in God, or I believe in God. That's what he said, And I felt that way. If you guys didn't feel that way.
I don't agree, actually.
I don't.
Okay.
I think when he saw Holly again, it did remind him of when he was a better person, because they were really good friends, and that's probably one of the last times he was really close with a person other than Anna. And so the reason he got caught was because he thought, he let his guard down for a second, and he decided to trust his friend again. And he didn't think that his friend would return him in like that. So that's, I think, why he got caught. I don't think he wanted to get caught, but I think he had a moment of compassion again, because his friend came to him and it reminded him of the kind of
Well,
person
what
he
about
used to
that
be.
end part where he said, I want you to do me in, old man. I want it to be you.
But he was already wounded, right?
I feel like he knew he was working with the police, because obviously he told the police right away. So
Well, Anna said that, pardon me, Anna said that in the cafe.
No. I mean, when they're at the Ferris wheel scene, and I think before he gets into the cuckoo clock speech, what he says is, I want you to do me in, old man, if they get me. And he knew that he had told the police because he just told him. I just think he was just.
But
Why would he even go meet him at that
Because
cafe?
he trusted him.
No, I don't. I think
think
he
he-
wanted to get caught.
If he wanted to get caught, he wouldn't have ran away for 25 minutes under the sewers, you know. And then even
You
when
know
he's
what?
shot, he
It
still
was like
tried
a
to get
last,
away.
Right.
let's try. Because, like I said, he was running away from people.
There is
Like,
something that he.
I
There
don't
is something
know.
clearly that he want. There is something. They need to be in that They need to be in that compartment on the top of the Ferris wheel for a very good reason. They're two. It is a harken back to the past. They are like two sides of they're two sides of an American coin in Vienna. One one who's still an innocent, and one who's a corrupted person who nevertheless still is able. That I guess if you can say there's one of the tragedies of Harry Lime's character is he still recognizes the innocence and basic decency of Holly. And I don't know if Harry Lime is a person who knows for friendship, but he knows that there is something that Holly has that he himself has lost, and it's something that he cannot find in Vienna. I think that's why he wants to draw him in. He pays for the plane ticket, and time and time again, he tries to go and he tries to justify him. He's the only time he gives an explanation for why he does the things that he
But
does.
it's clearly bullshit, you know? Like, I mean, what Harry says. Like, I feel. Maybe I
Well,
see
well,
everything
it's
different.
very-
Well, I think this is Harry trying to, as you said, justify himself and justify his actions. But I think he knows that Holly has, too much great a sense of morality to ever enter the business completely with him.
Yes, but he does, in that cafe scene, he's coming into the cafe to meet Holly, presumably, and he hears
Don't buy
Anna,
it.
he hears Anna say, accuse Holly of being a turncoat, telling the police, spying on his friend and so forth, and that's when Harry hears that and turns around and runs.
I think Harry meets him at the restaurant because he thinks Holly wants to be in on his business, and
That's what he wants.
Yeah,
that's
really
what he
wants.
wants.
He
Yeah,
really
that's what he
wants
wants.
that,
Right.
and maybe
Yeah.
maybe it goes in it goes against his better judgment. There's a great sequence right before he enters the restaurant where unlike Holly's viewpoint, which has always been dark and you can never get a clear picture, when Orson Welles shows up on the rubble, it shows a perfect surveillance shot of panning all the way across, showing at least his viewpoint can be a little better, even if he wasn't banking on what Holly did. But that leads me to wonder, in terms of how Rebecca was saying, how much does Harry believe his stuff? What do you guys think on the cuckoo clock scene? Do you think that in any way Harry Lime believes
No.
that someone can
No.
go and that someone can, out of strife, you can bring out great things?
No,
It's
I
just
think-
a line for him?
no,
Okay.
I do think he believes that.
Yeah,
Out of
I'm
chaos
I'm
can come
convinced-
genius.
Yes, I think that's one of the, I'm not sure who came up with that philosophy, but I think that is one established philosophy out of strength, out of chaos.
It's also completely incorrect. I forget the details of it, but the cuckoo clock was invented somewhere else.
Yes,
And wherever it was it Sweden that he said? And
He's talking about
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Switzerland,
Like they had a
500
terrible 500 years.
500 years of brotherly love, and
Yeah.
what did it produce?
Yeah, it's
Demo-
all
piece of
inaccurate
democracy.
apparently.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it also produced Albert Einstein.
It kind of reminds me of when of something that maybe where politicians and con men and Hollywood producers sometimes say when they can pull off a scam, they feel it's like in like Wag the Dog, like the Hollywood producer says, this thing I did was the truest thing I ever done. And I kind of think that there's a little bit of truth in what Harry wants to feel by doing it. That's how he would justify it and to himself in a way when he makes the cuckoo clock speech. He goes, "This is just another one of my childish pranks."
Right.
And the actual details may, like as Chris pointed out, totally not matter. but it's the fact that I'm so enthusiastically going to deliver it and see if I can fool my friend into doing it. That's what has value to me, to Harry.
Right.
Right.
And I'm going to start closing things up now because we only have a couple minutes. But I guess I want to do the one-word thing. So, their relationship. Holly, Harry. Childhood. That's my word. Anybody?
It's an interest, right? There's a couple of dynamics ones, like, yeah.
Complicated.
Lost reflection on the child, on the past, I think. But
So-
that's a lot of dashes.
Dash, dash, dash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love, hate.
Love, hate.
Mm.
That's a good one.
American.
Okay.
That's a good one, really good.
America.
American morality versus World War II moral turpitude.
Mm.
Dash, dash, dash.
I couldn't think of one word, I'm sorry.
That's okay, no worries. Okay, well, that's it
I
for
guess-
part. Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something else?
I guess if I had to nail it down to one word, it would be psychopathy for Harry Lime's psychopathy.
Okay.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. All right. So that's it for part 2. We'll see you for part 3. Thanks
Bye.
for watching.
Thanks for watching.